This is titled The Controversy of the Avocado. El aguacate has a layer of misleading skin on the outside, reptilian-like, almost as if one was touching the surface of a crocodile. One can grab a sharp knife to pierce its skin and open its body in half. This wonder is discovered to have a gradient that accents the green butter created from extraterrestrials. This has grown into a debatable topic that needs a solution. Both liberals and conservatives have chimed in on what to claim the identity of this specimen. This is the alien that belongs to a country that is foreign to Americans. I understand that to some they dislike avocados as it has a slippery, mushy texture, or because there is an unexpected, mild, noticeable taste. However, the anti-avocado society is entitled to their preferences. Yet there should be no sense of loathing towards an avocado simply because it is different. The irony that involves being an avocado is what it entails it to be different, by having a smooth mantle that is protecting a pit core. An avocado's anatomy involves being a pear-shaped fruit with rough, leathery skin, smooth, oily, edible flesh, and a large stone. With that large stone that becomes the pit, what it really is, it is a seed. I am the seed that was planted beneath the earthy Mexican soil. I had been plucked from the pregnant tree by the hands of a shoe saleswoman and a woodsmith. Both of their hard-working hands dug beneath the earth to plant me for shelter, to water me when I yearned for thirst, and they had given me light when I needed warmth. Shipments are usually made through planes, others through water, and like myself, through the border. 1999. A shipment of 2 tons of avocados had crossed the border under the import program for Hass avocados, where I had been snuck into the United States. I had grown to assimilate into society by knowing the language, watching PBS, and having a public education. By then, my roots had grown intact with the now American soil. At 7 years of age, the seed that was once believed to be a stone had been cultivated into a small tree that was far too young to bear any of its own. At this point, I had been yanked from the soil that I had grown to know. I was forced to go back to Mexico. I tried to believe my own lie that it was a vacation, but the truth traveled between my stems as I knew what the reality was. In my case, I had feared the person that had taken me. I knew that deportation was a fear that many have, but this was my case. It was them that I thought that I could trust the most. Te perdono. Mexico City had been foreign to me, but it had felt right to be there. My Spanish was at the same level as my English. I let my tongue dance instead of pushing it down so that I could freely trip over my R's. I had a small home. Of course, indoor plumbing was still a luxury. La casita was only halfway there. Everything seemed right. Chocolate abuelita stood still with 2 conchas, and chile de árbol had clogged my nostrils that would eventually make me sneeze. From here, I had been bombarded with culture that could not have been explained by my own parents. The only way I would understand it was to see it. I saw las señoras making the tortillas out on the patios. Papel picado was hanging from the houses. The mercados were filled with fresh mangoes. The los raspados had been sold on every street corner. The legend of El Chupacabra snuck into the night. The common people were praying to La Virgen de Guadalupe in the Basilica. Los futboleros were practicing in el Estadio Azteca. El pecero was about to break down in the middle of the road. The chicken that we had at home had escaped and ran onto the street. Eventually, my mother had caught it with the broom. The taxi had drove past El Ángel de la Independencia. The Diego Rivera Museum was filled with aficionados. The taco stand was next to the tamale lady, and the tamale lady was next to the churro man. It had been late August in Coyoacán, and I remember being told I was going to cross La Frontera once more. Prior to crossing, the coyotes told me to not make a sound and to pretend to fall asleep as we were approaching. I was fully awake. I saw an officer with a gold trim around his dark aviator glasses where he had stuck his head into the car. He asked the coyotes to see my passport, and they told him not to disturb me as I was asleep. The ride from Tijuana to Los Angeles had been intense. The moisture from my leaves was no longer there. I needed water. We couldn't stop. We were almost there. We made it. But am I a fruit or a vegetable? I found myself to be pulled in both directions, where on one hand I had still held on to the seed, and the other had been empty. When one avocado is seen to be rotten, that does not mean the rest are the same. Every species becomes ripe at their own time. My skin is thin. Go ahead. Press on me. Feel how tender I can be. You serve me on platters of toast, salad, smoothies, and even ice cream. Is it difficult for society to see that avocados have made contributions to American cuisine? Yet this is the only time that we are talked about, when we become a trend. This is his plan. This is what he wants everyone to believe, that we are a trend that will die out. He hides behind his tweets as he brushes against his corn husk hair. The only time he finds true luxury with me is when I, the testicle, enter his mouth. 4 tequila shots later, and the sombrero hat at 725 on Fifth Avenue. You have devoured me. You consumed the forbidden fruit that you were dared not to eat. What was left from the fruit was the pit that had escaped through your privileged hands. You tried to bury me. You tried to bury us all, but your so-called intellect didn't know that we are all seeds. The only walls that will be built are the ones the forces of nature can only know how to create. The fish will swim freely amongst the river. The gray wolves will cross without hesitation. And the monarchs will migrate as they please. As for us, the seeds, it is only the beginning. We'll grow into orchards to roam the land of dreams and become the bridges for all. Thank you.